Action-packed world of sports, some action from the International Premier Tennis League. But right here in Nigeria, we're assessing sports in 2016, and the president of the Nigeria Wrestling Federation is with us in the studio. Dan Ighali, you were talking about our wrestlers being unlucky at the Olympics, and you also said the Olympics, again, was the problem. Continue from where you felt.
Yeah, I would consider that we were a bit unlucky. But like I mentioned earlier, you have to be the best in your weight class. And I don't think we were the best in our weight classes, but that did not preclude us from at least winning a medal. So what happens in wrestling is the rankings are just number 1 and 2. And if you lose to a number 1 person and they get to the finals, you have a chance to come back for bronze. We had 4 athletes that we wrestled that were either number 1 or number 2, none of which made it to the finals. So that is the part on which I'm basing our lack of luck on.
Okay.
The other thing we needed to have done was to have beaten the number 1s or the number 2s so we could go to the finals. So other people could be praying for us to get to the finals so they could go for bronze. That was the other part. But if you want me to assess the whole year as a whole, I think from January to April, we went to the African Championships and the Africa-Oceania Olympic qualifiers. And for the first time in our history, we were able to qualify 6 athletes. So that was outstanding. In the whole world, Nigeria was one of only 5 countries that had 6 or 5 athletes. So we did well in that respect, in women. We went to the Spanish Grand Prix and did very well. We wrestled very well, beat some very good people. And I went into the Olympics expecting a minimum of a medal. But it was not to be.
Not 3, not 2, like Austin and Cecilia.
A minimum of a medal. It could have been more. Yeah. But you know, we're not the only country at the Olympics.
Exactly. Very competitive.
So I expected that, and especially because we had never ever won a medal at the Olympics. So I expected at least somebody to break the jinx and for us to come home with a medal. It never happened. But I think we're now at a place, a good place, where most of our athletes are at a point where they're comfortable enough to win internationally. So I'm happy with that.
Okay, that frozen stuff you talked about, you know, they were on the carpet and they freeze practically. Is there a way they could have been able to undo that? Maybe in case of next time, because more Olympics are obviously coming, maybe a psychologist or something that could have been done to actually put them in that right frame of mind, not to be frozen at the big stage.
Yes, I don't think there's anything that quite prepares you for the Olympics like going to the Olympics, one. Because what I saw at this tournament, Blessing was the most comfortable athlete there. Blessing was the most comfortable. In fact, I was a bit worried when she had Soren Bolt from Mongolia in their first match, who was dominant last year at the World Championships, was the world champion. Blessing, I thought, was the aggressor, should have won that match. But, you know, slight politics also came in because Soren Bolt didn't get a point on her. Blessing scored an offensive point. That's right. Soren Bolt was a passivity call. They just gave the point against her because she was a world champion. And going out, we had told Blessing, you have to go out and beat her because they will give her the advantage. So that was an issue. But I think what we needed to do a bit more of was competitions. And you see me crying about competitions all the time. When I went to Canada in 1994, from 1996 to 2000, when they looked at me, they felt I needed a lot of tournaments. So it started from 70 matches in 1996 to 42 in 1999.
70 matches.
70 matches a year.
17.
70
in 1 year.
In a year.
Okay.
To 42 in 1999. So when you see me always talking about my athletes needing to compete all the time, it's what's going to give you the confidence. In the finals at the in the semifinals at the Olympics, I was meeting Lincoln McRae from the United States for the 6th time.
Okay.
The first 3 times I wrestled him, I lost to him. The 4th time I beat him, the 5th time I beat him, the 6th time I beat him, and that was at the Olympics.
Wow.
If I had met Lincoln McRae at the Olympics for the first time, I would have lost to him.
Of course.
The 2nd time I would have lost to him. The 3rd time I would have lost him. So that is the advantage you get, especially if you're a better athlete. The more you meet the person, the better it is for you. And that is what we need for our athletes. But we don't have that opportunity.
That's a shame. And it just brings us back to the issue of funding. That seems to be the problem, right, Austin? And obviously, your main job is to, administer, promote, and develop the game in the country. But would you agree with commentators out there that feel you guys don't do enough to market the sport?
You see, I want a lot of these commentators, and I'm pretty open to any of the commentators coming on my board to market the sports.
Okay.
Because there are so many discussions we've had with corporations, with individuals. Nigerians only say they love sports. And I'm putting it out here. We only pay lip service to sports. We are not prepared to put a dime on sports. Everybody thinks that only the government should do something. The board members contribute money for these athletes to get even the bare basics. And what people must understand is it's not only when they go to competitions. It's when their parents are sick. It's when their kids have birthdays. It's when they have school fees. It's when their rent is up. As a president, you are involved in all the processes. So the final outcome you see of an athlete going out to win is not just when you put them on a flight to go to a competition. It entails a lot more things. And until we get the full gamut of everyone getting involved in this process, we're going to keep scratching our heads for the next 4 years.
I was going through some article, from the UK concerning their athletes and all that, where you have elite athletes get grants every year from the state government. This is not corporate this time around. They also set up a kind of a fund, where when you're praying for Olympics and all that, they get them to get fund. Now in Nigeria, we have the sports funds, right?
We don't have any funds in Nigeria.
There's a particular fund that was set up some time ago for...
I can tell you, we have no fund in Nigeria that gives money to athletes.
We don't have anything like that.
Everything is from the federal government.
Okay, since we don't have that now, on the part of the federation, I asked you that question, when we talked to you when you were praying for, the other championship, the other Spanish Grand Prix. Not the Spanish Grand Prix, the one in Azerbaijan, Baku. So I asked you about this question of subvention from the federal government, because since you guys cannot get sponsor, so sometimes you have the sports ministry that normally gives out money when you're going for international competition, monthly or yearly. Did you guys get anything this year at all?
No.
Nothing at all?
No, we've not gotten anything. The only funds you got were the ones you used to go for the Olympic preparations, and those were already budgeted funds. So that is the issue. We must have a dedicated account for elite athletes. So an athlete who, for instance, is top 16 in the world, when I competed, when you were top 16 in the world, you got about $1,500 per month from the Canadian government. If you were top 4 in the world, you got about $2,500. If you were number 4 to number 8, you got about $2,000. That is monthly. That is in addition to your sponsors and everything else. So until we're able to categorize our athletes into a performance index and do these kind of interventions for them, it's going to be a problem, in addition to the sponsorship. And I think this is a veritable avenue for me to call on sponsors, because we must. Sports is too big of a business. It's too big of a climate that should be invested in that we're missing out on. We look at sports as once in every 4 years for athletes, for Olympians. It should be way more than that. It should be almost a daily thing. And I keep telling everybody, my first sponsor was a store beside my house. An Indian man had a store, and he was giving me my bus pass to go to practice. That was my first sponsor.
Interesting.
I had transport to go to practice and back.
And that was the beginning of your journey to
That was the beginning of my journey. So we should not look at sponsorship as coming to put in 5 million naira before you sponsor someone. If you see an athlete around your neighborhood that is into sports, look at a way you can buy shoes for him. If it's a racket, buy a racket for him. On days that he wants to go to practice, give him transport money to go. You are a sponsor already. That's what we need to understand.
It's that simple.
We can go on and on.
We can go on and on. I wish we could just say one more. But time is not our friend right now. Dan, thank you so much for coming on the program. We need to find out more time to talk about wrestling, particularly the prospects for 2017. So you're coming right back on the program.
2017 is going to be good. Okay. I can tell you
Let's
that. 2017 to 2020.
Okay.
Yes. Let's leave it at that.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's it. President of Nigeria Wrestling Federation, Dan Ighali, talking to us, is assessing wrestling in Nigeria for 2016. We'll go